Hey everybody, how's it going? How about we take a closer look at my Colnago?
I think it's just mega, really. Right, I'm home, I'm showered, I'm clean, and I've given my bike a little bit of a wipe down. I don't really feel the need to be washing my bike too much at the moment. I'm riding it most days. It's really dry where we live, and it just seems unnecessary to spend hours washing it when a quick wipe with a little bit of spray makes it look pretty much immaculate. Right, what can I tell you about my 2019 Colnago Concept that you either couldn't read online or you didn't know before? Well, there's a lot of details for this bike down in the comments below. I've got my bathroom scales outside, so I'm going to weigh it properly in a minute. Properly, my bathroom scales lie, as I keep telling everyone. And we're going to make some measurements as well, so then we'll know exactly how I've set my bike up. First off though, I should point out, this is indeed a 2019 Colnago Concept, and it's one of last year's team bikes. I needed to get a bike from St Piran a lot earlier than any of us intended, which means that I'm currently riding around on Steve Lampier's 2019 race bike. Luckily for me, Steve looks after his bikes really well, and he doesn't put out anywhere near the same sprint power as I do. Sorry, Steve. Which means that actually the bike is in immaculate condition, and when I picked it up, it was literally like picking up a brand new bike. The video I was hoping to bring you, I'm still going to bring you in the future, because if you do follow me on Instagram, or you follow the team on Instagram, you'll know that I've got a disc version of one of these on the way. And I'm quite excited about it, more so than normal, because I've never actually done back-to-back rides on a rim brake bike of the same brand and the same type as the disc brake version. So I'm quite curious to see if you can actually tell the difference. I'm 100% convinced that disc brakes are better because of the through axles. So I'm quite curious to know, is that actually the case? So I'm looking forward to that, hopefully next week. How about we start off with a weigh-in on my bathroom scales, and I'm nervous about this. You get to see how heavy I am. I'll pretend my pockets are full and I've eaten loads of lunch, coupled with my bike.
That'll do. You can work out how heavy I am based off that. 7.5 kilos, which I think for a full aero bike with aluminium bar and stem, Ultegra Groupset, massive old school heavy saddle, heavier than an old school saddle, it's really not that bad at all.
Time for a few measurements. So I've gone for skinnier bars for the first time ever. We'll start at the top. So after my visit to the wind tunnel last year, I kind of became more and more curious about the benefits of aerodynamics. Not that I was naive to it before. I knew exactly what aerodynamics were. I always rode really tucked up and tried to get as aero as possible. But things that I'd never played around with, or at least not for a continual period of time, were things like narrower bars. So these bars, they are 40 centimetres centre to centre in the drops. But at the top of the hoods, that's down to 36 centimetres, which is definitely a lot narrower than I ever would have had in the past. In the past, would have always gone for 420 bars, so 42 centimetres centre to top. It's a 130mm stem, and again from FSA, both of those components, bars and stem. And you'll notice that I've got a 5mm spacer in underneath. It's got an Ultegra Groupset, you may have noticed that already. A little bit of grass on the levers from where I had it upside down cleaning it a second ago. Big no-no. I've mentioned before about the tyres that we use. We've got the 28mm Hutchinson Fusion 5s. Although on the front of this at the moment, I love trialling around with stuff. I've got a Hutchinson Fusion 5 again, but in 25mm. And that one is blown up 75 psi, and the back also, because of the bigger volume. I'd normally go a little bit harder in the back, but because it's larger volume, you can reduce the pressure. Both set up tubeless, which is my preferred method. Got a pair of Shimano 105 pedals on there, on some Rotor. That's the one-sided power meter, so it's Rotor InPower, 172.5 crank, 5339 chain rings, 1128 cassette, which is fairly standard. One thing that's not standard these days, and as far as I know you can't even buy them anymore, as you can probably tell it's been used a little bit, is my Fizik Arione saddle. What do they call it? They call it the K5, I think that said. Yeah, Fizik Arione K5. It's basically an Arione, but like mega padded. I've used that for a few years. I bought a few of them in 2017, just before they either stopped making them or you couldn't buy them anymore. So I've got a couple of those kicking around, and I like to use them. If I'm doing longer rides, they are definitely that little bit more comfortable. Although for the crits, I'd probably swap it out and use a slightly lighter saddle, just because it feels racier and it looks quite cool. We've got the Rally Special products, so that's RSP, Calavera 30cc 35mm rims. Now these are cool, I'd never heard of these before, but actually they're mega lightweight, they're not overly expensive, and they ride silky smooth as well. They handle really well. I like, a lot of people have commented, you've got an aero bike, but you've got low profile rims. And actually, I just think low profile rims, there's a lot to be said for them, because yeah, we can all ride around with big 60mm wheels, but if there's a little bit of crosswind, the bike just becomes that little bit less like relaxing to ride. And it is windy where we live. We live on top of the Cotswold Escarpment, and you get blown around all the time. We live on an island in the UK, so of course there's loads of wind. You can't really escape it. So I do prefer 35mm wheels for training and for certain races as well. Bikes should handle well, bikes should be enjoyable to ride, and whilst big wheels do look cool, they're not always the most practical. So for some extra details that you don't get where you are right now, the hubs, 150 points of engagement, which is what gives us that insane buzz on the free hub. My saddle height, how about we measure that? This year I've ridden with a higher saddle height than I've ever ridden before, and that's because I spent a long time stretching, trying to get the most out of my range of movement in my muscles. So yeah, centre of the saddle to centre of the bottom bracket is 75.5 centimetres. In the past, with even longer cranks, I used to ride on 175s, I would have had it down to 73.5 centimetres. Back in 2013, I remember that quite clearly. Stem length and reach is something I've played around with a lot over the years as well. 2015 had a negative 15 centimetre stem, partly because I thought it looked cool. To get mega low at the front, I'm not sure there's any benefit at all. Certainly when I'm doing the same power now and I'm going just as fast as ever. So that's 56 centimetres exactly from the tip of the saddle to the centre of the bars. Arm 1 metre 78, but not particularly long in the leg, not particularly long in the body. And it's comfy, it feels fast, it feels right, and it handles really well. So that's something that I can tell you about the bike. I've ridden Colnagos before, in 2010 and 2011. In fact, I had 3 different models back then. I had a Colnago EPS, which was like a anniversary edition bike at the time. Then a CLX something or other. Testing my history here. And then an M10 as well. And they were all quite different to this. So the original, the EPS, was quite a classic bike with a nice flat top tube, and that was really, really cool. Looked really beautiful, had a beautiful paint job on it as well. And then the other 2, they were both monocoque frames, such as this one, but they were quite an early version, and they were actually quite different to this. So this is before aero bikes really became popular. Like now, you can't really turn up to a race without seeing that aero really is everywhere. So what do I think of it? Well, it's faster than I was expecting. I didn't really know what to expect. First rim brake bike that I've ridden since I'd stopped racing. I made a return, almost, to racing. So it's definitely aero. You really notice the benefits of having an aero bike. I've taken the computer off the front just to make it look that little bit neater and sleeker. You notice that I wear a watch to collect all my training data. It handles really neutrally. Obviously, I'm not going to give you a review because I'm quite biased. This is the bike that I'm enabled to use through the team. It's very neutral handling. It's not the sort of bike where you have to manhandle it, and it's not nervous, it's not twitchy. Certainly with a slightly longer stem, that would negate that anyway. But it's really smooth. It's just a really enjoyable ride. It's comfortable, but then probably not in the best position to say if a bike is uncomfortable. But also these days, large volume tyres, they go a long way to making a bike a lot more comfortable than it would have been. I really like it. And in fact, I really like the colour. You'll notice in the future, or in some of the posts, that our bikes are currently in 2 different colours. That's because last year they had this colour with the orange decals, and then we've had some decals made which include the tartan from the team kit, and I think they look really cool. They're slightly darker, so all of this orange is cancelled, as it were, and some of it's replaced with tartan and some of it's replaced with black, and I think it makes it look like a real racy bike. I think it's really cool. I really love the orange, but that's coming from, being married to a Dutch lady. I also really like it when it's really clean. Luckily, it doesn't look too bad right now on the camera. There are more than a few little features on this bike which I think are really cool. Now, forgive the slightly dirty chain, but look at the jockey wheels. Never before have I had oversized pulley wheels. And there's no resistance and everything just keeps on turning. It's almost like the bike's pedaling itself. And it does sound amazing as well. Easily the loudest free hub I've had for a long time. Hopefully I haven't missed any of the details. The size is a 50S, which is basically equivalent to a 54cm standard frame. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. I'd be really curious to know. Personally, I think it looks really cool in these colours. I'm going to leave you with a little clip of me riding down one of my favourite descents from this past week.